Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. Today, we're discussing a timepiece that can be described as emerging vintage. It's a transitional era Rolex Oyster Perpetual Submariner reference 16800 with a 712,000 serial number. This is a watch that dates to about 1982 and represents the sub during its transition from its period as a upscale pure utility timepiece to a standard bearer of luxury and status. It's a handsome and intact survivor that you can see and purchase on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full sales listing for this watch with additional accessories included in the sale, high resolution images for your desktop, and naturally complete pricing details for this Rolex Submariner 16800. So the timepiece you see here came to market in the late 1970s as the successor and briefly the running mate to the previous 1680, the first Submariner with a date dating back to the 1960s. And this watch represented a bit of a sea change, not just in terms of Rolex's place in the pantheon of watch manufacturers and the luxury market, but also in terms of technology, as this was the first sub to come standard with 300-meter depth rating, sapphire crystal, unidirectional rotating bezel, a high beat movement, and a quick set date. The timepiece wears pretty much as you would expect a pre-supercase Rolex Submariner, that is pre-2008 sub, to wear. It's a compact 40 millimeters that sits well on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist. It's reasonably thin at 13 millimeters thick, and the timepiece is a tidy 47.7 lug-to-lug. On this older 93150 bracelet, you can see that it has pivoted end links, so we're a long way from the solid end link era for the steel subs. Therefore, it wears true at 47.7 millimeters lug to lug, and should you wish to accessorize, the lug spacing of this one, if you were to measure it out, would be 20 millimeters. Now, the timepiece on my wrist sits comfortably and lighter on its lugs, if you will, than the subsequent supercase, as well as solid end link bracelets. Now, back then, you had pivoted end links and you had hollow center links to create a little bit of that vintagey Rolex rattle that we associate with older Rolex timepieces. However, the bracelet is in good condition. There's a fair amount of stretch. You can see that the gaps between the links have expanded a little bit as the pins inside have worn down, but it has excellent structural integrity, and the amount of metal as well as the finish of the metal externally remains superb. Channels between links, even then Rolex understood that you had to open up the channels between the links to avoid pinching skin and pulling hair. The clasp is wonderfully intact, as the original references, serial numbers, and maker's marks are crisp inside. It's crisp in its closure and retains an outstanding example of the flip lock clasp. This one allows you to rapidly deploy and fit the watch over a wetsuit, a dry suit, or even a thick winter coat or sweater. The timepiece features a case that I would describe as about 7.5 to 8 out of 10. As you can see, the bevels of the case flank have worn away with time and refinishing, but nevertheless, there's still a large amount of metal available on the lugs, and the lugs are fairly even from side to side, so the refinishing has been even-handed. You'll also note that there's no protrusion of the spring bars from the periphery of the lugs, so that's always a red line for me with a vintage sub or any vintage perforated lug Rolex. You shouldn't have a protrusion of the spring bar from the lug. Now, the bezel is nicely matched to the dial. This watch, with a serial number dating to approximately 1982, might have been one of the last of the matte dials from about 77 to about 1983. Rolex used an older style printed matte dial. What that means, and we get a little bit closer since we're not on the wrist anymore, is that rather than the later white gold appliques with a gloss base, here you have a printed matte dial, all in tritium. You can see the tritium fade to the bezel as well as the dial itself. I do believe the hands are subsequent to the dial, but in all respects, there's a nice even patina across all surfaces, and the printing is crisp. The dial's in excellent condition without any evidence of tarnishing, physical marks, or oxidation. You can see the open 6 on the date wheel, and that's significant because original date disc, as well as the first with a quick set, you will get the convenience of being able to reset the watch easily with the quick set mechanism should it run down or encounter an irregular length month. You can see that the sapphire is lower than the previous plexiglass, so it thins the watch out and makes it a bit more appropriate as a dress timepiece. More and more, we're seeing vintage timepieces appropriated as dress or formal occasion watches, and you can see this watch has a classical elegance that some might say is missing in contemporary Rolex products. The watch has a caliber 30-35 automatic winding, 42 to 45 hour power reserve. This was the first of the sub movements to beat at 28,800 vibrations per hour, a modern beat rate. First to have the quick set, and it has other standards that are appropriate to its original mission as a diving chronometer, as it features both a free-sprung balance with microstella adjustment nuts for precise regulation, a chronometer certification, and a Breguet overcoil hairspring on its single-sided balance cock structure to allow the watch to keep consistent time and precision with respect to any position oriented against gravity. That's part of the chronometer test, as well as part of the challenge of owning a wristwatch. The watch will have to keep even time in many orientations with respect to gravity. Now, the timepiece is nicely intact, handsome, wearable, and everything is functional. The movement's in excellent condition. The bracelet is physically intact, wearable, and in all original respects, the timepiece is still suitable as a sports watch. Moreover, you can see that the crystal is unmarred, unchipped, no cracks, no fractures, no compromise. Likewise, the unidirectional rotating bezel functions as it should, moving only in one direction, so the original rotating ratchet is intact. You can line up the luminescent pearl, though it no longer looms, with the minute hand, so by day you can still use it as a 0 to 60 minute countdown timer. This is a timepiece for the vintage collector who wants a daily driver in strong mechanical condition with a intact exterior that's not quite Concours quality, but better than most of what exists. As attrition has culled the herd of these older Rolex sports watches, this is still one of the upper echelon watches in terms of functional and aesthetic condition. You can see it and put it on your wrist on our website.